We're going to look at task 2 and 3 of the Arduino skills task. We're setting up this circuit with the light dependent resistor, and we are trying to get the green light to come on when it's light and the red light to come in when it's darker. You need to understand we can wire this up in different configurations as long as we have got the AO in between the LDR and the 10K resistor, and the other leg going back to the positive. So this one's coming from the ground. So we need to understand that loop. We also need to understand that we're feeding the positive through pin 13 and 12. That goes to the anode, and then the cathode returns through the resistor back to the ground line on the breadboard. So the same with this one, but we're going back to pin 12. Essentially, you can use any of these pins, but we need to adjust the code to suit that. So I'm going to come up to code here and click that. We're in the text code, and if you have a look down, I've pasted from the OneNote the code in here. Let's check what the code says. The code says on pin 13 we have constant integer red LED 13. Let's have a quick look at this. So at the moment this cord is going to the green, so let's change that around. We can do that two ways. We could click that and change this to red, and we can click this one and change it to red, and then we can check this one and change it to green and change this one to green. Or the other way we could do it is we could have changed the pin, so we could have just directly swapped those two. Let's look back at the code again, and now we're checking pin 12 is our green, which is correct, and pin A0 is going to our LDR, so that's going to be reading the amount of light. Void setup. So in the setup, we're telling what the Arduino what is the input and output. So we've got the red LED and the green LED, and they're both outputs, and we've got the LDR pin, which is the input. Void loop. So the void loop is going to read the input through AO, and you can see the analog pin is the LDR. So it's looking for a variable signal between 0 and 1023. That'll make a bit more sense when we look at what's happening. We should also have in here somewhere, I think I'm misreading it, there should be a serial begin. That's going to allow us to have a serial read, and it will show us what's going on. So further down we'll have a serial print. Analog read equals. That will allow us to see what's happening in the circuit. So another serial print, which is the LDR status. Okay, so we've set these LDRs to just a random number at the moment. It's going to change depending on the light in the room. So let's have a quick look at this. If digital write LED red pin high and the green pin low, if the light is less than 700. So we're looking at to go less than 700, and it'll be very dark red. If we're greater than 700, so if else, so it's not less than 700, it's greater than it, but it's lower than 1000, it's going to go to a green light to show us that it is light in the room. Let's start the code and see what happens. So at the moment we've got red here. If I click on the LDR, we can change the light level. So the moon shows it's dark and the sun shows it's light, and if I just change it a little bit towards the sun, it's giving us the light symbol. Let's have a look at the serial monitor for this. I need to open up the code again, and then where it says serial monitor, this is showing our serial read, and it says the light level at the moment is 825. So you can see it's kind of cycling through. If I click here and I move this one, you can see the light level is getting higher by this number that's coming up, and coming backwards it's going to dark as that number gets lower. So it's changing the resistance of the circuit, and it's reading it a little bit like a multimeter, how much resistance is coming back to this AO connection. If I would like to change it so it's kind of mid-level here before it switches between red and green, I can read that number when it's sitting in the middle. So we're going to have to do this to our physical circuit too. So 940, let's have a look what the high level is. It's kind of like under 1,000 still. That's kind of 930 or 40, and it comes down to 600. So let's pause the circuit and go back to our code. If I change this one here to 940, we'll leave this at 1,000 and start the simulation. Now I can slide this along, and as long as it's under 940, it's reading very dark and the red LED is on. And as we get past 940, it says good light and the green LED is on. The next part of the task, we're going to add another LED. So I'm going to copy this one and paste, and I'm going to set this circuit up again. Copy and paste, make sure you go to the cathode. I'm going to make this one blue. Actually, we'll make this one green. Move this one across to here. We're going to change this one here to blue. We're going to add another pin, so let's go from pin 11. So we've just added another LED. Once we've done that, we're going to look at our code. So let's start at the top. I'm going to copy this one in here and paste it. And we're going to make this the blue LED. And we don't need the comment. The comment is just to help us learn. And we're going to change this one to pin 11. We're going to copy this again. So probably good practice to put these in the right order. Keep your alignment nice. Just good practice. So blue is an output. And this is where it gets a little more complicated. We need the if statement here, right down to this part here. We're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it in between. So once we've pasted that, we can work on changing these figures. So we know 940 is about the middle, so let's go up to say 950. And let's make this one a little bit lower, so say 900. So we've got very dark. We have got, let's just call this one dark and call this one blue. I'll keep it in capitals, so we've got this, so we've kept it in capitals. Then we're going to copy a line from each one of these and paste it in underneath. So this one's going to be blue, and we want to keep it low. This one here, we're going to paste it in. And this time we want it to be high, and we want pin red to be low. And then lastly, we want the pin to be low as well. So just make sure these are labeled correctly, and let's give that a play. So we've kind of got this low, we've got this blinking, so we've got a problem here. We'll kind of go to the green. So the green's working okay, the blue's working okay, but the red and the blue is not working. So that's our low light. Let's have a look what's happening. Okay, so if we look down on our code, we've got an if statement here, and it's under 900. It's very dark. If it's under 950, it's dark and it's blue, and it's good light, if else good light here. I can see what the problem is here, but before I change it, let's just check what's happening in the serial monitor. So at the moment, the light is, let's change it a little bit, we're at 784, and it's kind of saying that it's very dark red, and it's also saying it's dark blue, so that's blinking through there. Let's look back at the code. So why is it kind of confused between those two, and it's connecting with this statement, and this is also true. So because it's under both. But then we've got an if else here, so we actually need this next one to be an if else statement. So let's stop the code and paste if else in instead. Sorry, else if. And let's see if that fixes our problem. So now it's in the 50 range, it's very dark, the red LED is on. We move that forward and we've just skipped over that 900, but it's below 950, so it's blue, it's dark, and then the sun comes up and it's light, so you can see it's green. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. The next thing we do is we can connect a RGB LED in place of 3 LEDs. So I'm going to pull in the RGB LED. We're going to hover over the legs to tell us which leg is which. So this one's the cathode, so the resistor can come across to the cathode. And the green, let's check which one's green. So we'll click on, whoops, this wire here, and we'll bring that to the green. And then the blue, let's check which one's blue. So they're in the same order as we used them before. And the last one left is the red. You can tell the cathode on the RGB LEDs because it's longer. It's a bit opposite to what we look for in the other LEDs. You can delete the other components. You can neaten up the top. Bring that down just so it looks a little bit neater, and we'll play that simulation. So red is our very dark. Let's have a look at the code as we're doing this. So that's correct. And we'll move to blue hopefully, and then we'll move to green. So obviously if you were setting up a system, the RGB LED is going to be a little less components to include in your project. Make sure you document this in your project folio, and hopefully you learned something watching the video.